Born on June 9, 1954 in New York City, Edoardo Angelli was the eldest son of Gianni Angelli, an Italian Christian, and Marella Caraccio, a Jewish princess. His father Gianni was an Italian billionaire senator who was the owner of the automobile factories Fiat, Ferrari, Lancia, Lamborghini, Alfa Romeo and Iveco. He also owned factories producing industrial parts, many private banks, fashion and design companies, newspaper publishing company and many other entities. The amount of his family's wealth and influence are so great that the press in Italy calls them the Italian royal family. Edoardo completed his primary and secondary education in Italy. He went to England for his higher education. There, he went to Atlantic College, and after that he continued his studies at Princeton University in the United States and majored in theology and Eastern philosophy, in which he was able to obtain his PhD. One day, when he was in the library, he noticed the Quran on the shelf and decided to read it. He was impressed by it and decided to check it out. While reading it, he felt that the words and phrases had a special power and light to them, and that they could not have been written by a man. It is from there on that he developed an interest in Islam and started studying and researching about it, as he had done for other religions. At the age of 20, he went to an Islamic center in New York and declared his desire about wanting to become a Muslim. There he became a Muslim, and they gave him the name Hisham Aziz. After becoming a Muslim, Edoardo met Dr. Adiri Abiane, who was a member of the Iranian embassy in Italy, and it was through him that Edoardo became a Shiite Muslim and chose the name Mahdi. Edoardo's conversion to Islam wasn't accepted well by his family, and he was subjected to various abuse and trouble by them. He was isolated from the Fiat company. His father had threatened that if he did not forget his Islamic beliefs, Edoardo would inherit nothing after his father's death. But he was prepared to forget his millions of dollars inheritance rather than forget Islam. His family was continually putting him under severe pressure to desert Islam, but they never succeeded. Edoardo left all his riches and embraced Islam and the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt. Edoardo traveled to Iran many times, and in March of 1981 he went to see Imam Khomeini, and it was during this meeting that Imam kissed his forehead. Then he participated in Friday prayers on April 3, 1981 in Tehran. He also had a trip to Mashhad and visited the holy shrine of Imam Reza.
A story of struggle, murder and love. I must go further, so you feel the above. They said he was lost and hooked on drugs, cause he bowed to Allah on the prayer rug. A mind clean and straight, just like his heart, not the typical image of a patriot arc. He studied in Princeton in search of truth, a man on a mission, but they too were in pursuit. They labeled him timid to put him in a box. He didn't care for capitalism, the billions in stocks. He traded the life of glamour for Dean Al-Haq. They tried to ignore him, to keep him blocked, but determined he was, so he had to be stopped. The Shaheed, a champion greater than Juventus. Day and night he served the plight of all defenseless, traveling to Iran. Imam Khomeini was his witness. Shaheed Angelli, they envy your honesty, submission to God, your faith and modesty, service to humanity, patience constantly, the real behavior of a Muslim, obviously.
Although he was the only son of Senator Angelli, Edoardo was considered as inappropriate due to his religious views to be a successor for his father. But since he was the rightful successor, they had to find a good reason for not choosing him. So they accused him to be a smuggler carrying 300 grams of heroin. The police and the court immediately understood that this was a setup. However, the Italian media, which was mainly under the influence of his family, continued to defame him in public. After his cousin Giovanni Ampercelli was chosen as his father's successor, Edoardo was not against this decision and congratulated him on his new position. However, after Giovanni's suspicious death, Edoardo severely opposed the appointment of his Jewish nephew Jacob Alkan. However, Alkan became the new successor, and they tried to change Jacob's surname from Alkan to Angelli. During the last years of his life, Edoardo had told to his close friends about his family's intentions and trying to show that he was a psychopath, and even sending him to a mental institution. He was threatened severely by Zionist Jews and decided to go to Iran and study in Qom. He was eventually killed on November 15, 2000 in Turin, Italy by his enemies and the enemies of Islam. They falsely claimed that he committed suicide, and various courts disagreed with the evidence that was presented by the police. US authorities and Zionists didn't give permission for more investigation in the circumstances of his death. They did not allow anyone get detailed information about the latent stories behind his death. He was eventually killed so that the Anelli Empire would not end up in the hands of a Muslim. Edoardo's death is just another plot of the enemies to hide the truth.